Hey everybody, welcome back to the Financial Freedom Show. My name is Rob Berger. In this video, I'm going to walk through three of my favorite portfolio trackers. These are apps that help you track your portfolio. I think they're great if you're an index and mutual fund investor, maybe even with a simple portfolio, like a 3-fund portfolio. They also work if you like individual stocks and ETFs and you've got 50 positions in your portfolio. Now, some of them do serve some uses better than others, so we'll walk through that. So we're going to walk through, like I said, three of my favorites. Now, I have put together an article that actually goes into detail on more. You can see that here, where I track eight of my favorite investment trackers that I think can serve different purposes depending on your goals. But I'm going to focus on three of my favorites. I'll leave a link to this article below the video, and I'll also link to the three trackers that I'm going to show you now. Now, the first one is free. The second one we're going to look at is free, but there's also a paid version. And then the third one is a paid tool. So I've got all the bases covered today. So let's get right to it. And the first one I want to show you that we've talked about on this show many times is Personal Capital. This is the free one. And I think it's probably the best portfolio tracker for the majority of people. And you'll see why. Now, what I've done for this demo account is just manually created 4 hypothetical portfolios. And to actually use this, what I do for myself is I actually link my accounts to Personal Capital. They have excellent security and they support, of course, 2-factor authentication. Never had an issue there. And the nice thing is you can link IRAs, 401ks, Roth and traditionals, HSAs, of course, taxable accounts. You can link the value of your home through Zillow. Of course, you can link bank accounts and credit cards. So really just about every kind of account. And when you do that, each one will show up as a separate holding, as you see here. And they'll categorize it for you between investment accounts and bank accounts and credit cards. They'll be separated out. Now, in this demo account, I've just got 4 hypothetical investment accounts. The one thing I'll say is if you connect your bank accounts and your credit card, you can actually do all your budgeting in this tool as well, which I think is really nice. But I want to focus on investing, and I want to show you why I like this tool so much. So once you've connected your accounts, the first thing you can do pretty simply is go into the investing tab, as you see here, and just look at all your holdings. And you can see if we scroll down, this breaks all of your holdings down. Of course, the number of shares you own, which it pulls that data in automatically for you, the price, the day's change, the total value, and it'll also track your performance against the S&P 500 is primarily what I look at. You can look at a broader market. You can compare it to foreign stocks or the bond market. So the options are there for you to choose. I tend to focus on the S&P 500. And then beyond that, you can look at balances. So this would be by account. So here we've got 4, again, these were manual sort of hypothetical accounts. But it allows us to look at our investments by account, again, with performance by either day or 90-day period and the total balance. And then you can look at performance overall, and again, can compare it to a number of different markets. And you can see the data. Now here, you'll notice they're all zeros. That's because I haven't actually linked accounts. These are just manually entered. And it is important, sometimes you may want to enter an account manually, and if you do, you won't get this data, but if you link your accounts, then of course all of this data will be filled in. But it's really the next thing that begins to, I think, show the power of Personal Capital, and it's their asset allocation. So we're looking now at the allocation, not of any one of these accounts, but all 4, right? Now we could narrow this, we could select the specific account or accounts we wanted to look at. Personal Capital can do that. So that's good too, because sometimes I want to look at just my retirement accounts or just my taxable accounts. But here we're looking at them all, and we can drill down into any of these asset classes. So for example, we could say, okay, what's in the alternatives class? And we can say, all right, a big chunk of it's real estate. And if we click into this, it'll actually show us, in this case, which ETFs, or if you have mutual funds, which mutual funds account for the real estate portion of your portfolio. And you might see some surprises, like VTI is a total stock market fund, and it may surprise some folks to know that, yeah, it has real estate exposure. Of course, most of it comes from REITs that are part of these portfolios. And we can come over here and look at other, and it's going to be gold primarily. Yeah, primarily gold. But so the point is we can dive into the details. We can do the same thing with US stocks and go into all of the details we want to here, all of the different asset classes. And I find this very helpful so that I can understand at a granular level exactly what my allocation is and how it changes over time. You can also look at US sectors if that's important to you, and it breaks those down. Again, this happens automatically once you connect all of your accounts. So that's sort of all of the, I guess I'll call it high-level data you can get about your investment portfolio. But personal capital goes a step further. We can actually do some analysis, and I want to show you that. And it's over here in the Planning tab. And there are a number of things that we can do. The first one is the Retirement Fee Analyzer. And one thing I want to point out about this is when you first load it, it only looks at retirement accounts, thus the name, right? Retirement Fee Analyzer. However, if you click this button here, it'll actually analyze the fees for all of your accounts. You just have to select them as well. So we'll just select all accounts, click Done. And what it will do is it shows you the weighted average of your expense ratios right here. So it's 0.11. So these portfolios are very inexpensive. You can then set what your annual contributions are right here. If you get an employer match, you can make an assumption about annual growth. And if you pay an investment advisor, you can add that here. And it will not only, of course, show you your fees here, but then it'll also show you what you'll pay in fees over time. Now, I have a hypothetical age set at 31 and a retirement of 61, but you can change all of that, right? If you click this, I know I did that quickly, but here we go, edit assumptions. You can change your retirement age. I've just got a sort of a fake birthday here, but obviously you'll have your birthday here. You can also change your tolerance for risk, and it will recalculate it. But the thing I really like about this is it shows you right here an estimate of the total fees you'll pay from today through until you retire based on the fees in all of your accounts. And it does this just by aggregating and collecting all of the data from the accounts that you connect to Personal Capital. And the other thing we can do is a retirement planner. And it's a pretty robust retirement planner because it allows you to do a couple of things. You can create income events. For example, how much you're going to save. You can put in projections for Social Security. You can add other income events. For example, if you get an annuity or you're expecting an inheritance, pensions, rental income. So it really gives you a lot of options in terms of the income side of retirement. And then your spending goals. So maybe you're going to take a trip around the world, or you're going to buy a vehicle, or you're going to, after you retire, maybe you plan to renovate your home. Of course, there's healthcare, which is always important, or you're going to give to charity. You can model all of those expenses here. You can also edit some important assumptions like your effective tax rate, inflation rate, and of course, your life expectancy. And it recalculates all of the data here, and it also gives you a retirement score. And you can also create a new scenario and compare them. And this can come in real handy because maybe you'll think, well, in one scenario, I'll retire at 65, but hey, maybe I could retire at 63. Let's model that. Or what if I work until 68? What changes will that have? Or if I delay Social Security? So you can model all of those different scenarios with Personal Capital, and it gives you its assessment of your likelihood for success. So it's a really robust tool, and it's one I've used a lot. And then the last thing I'll mention before we move on to the next investment tracker is the investment checkup. It sort of analyzes your portfolio and suggests improvements. It looks at your current allocation and suggests a target allocation. And that's based in part on how aggressive you want to be. They have a recommended level of risk tolerance, but obviously, we can change that if we want to. And then it goes through and just looks at some historical performance. Obviously, these numbers are big because I'm modeling someone who's 31 that has over $4 million already saved. So, those end up being some big numbers. It does some future projections for you. And it's a very, I think, good way to evaluate your portfolio. I will stress, don't take it as gospel. This is just one tool's evaluation of your portfolio. At the end of the day, you have to make the decisions that are best for you. But that's Personal Capital. It's free. It's my favorite tool. I've used it for many, many years, and I think you'll like it too. But it's not the only option. So let's move on to number two. Number two is sort of, I'll call this the old school approach, and you kind of probably get that when you look at it. This is like, the 1990s called, and they want their website back. This is Morningstar, and yeah, they haven't updated the look and feel of their portfolio tracker, but I'm using the free version. There is a paid version, and if you get the paid version, it does give you some extra things like their analyst reports and an X-ray, which will sort of X-ray ETFs and mutual funds and show you exactly what percentages of companies you're holding through your ETFs and mutual funds. That may be of interest to some of you, but I think for a lot of folks, probably not. The free version is probably just as fun, just as good. And you can create multiple portfolios, as I have done. This is a hypothetical portfolio consisting of just, this we can see it's got four because I threw an extra one in. It was modeling the three-fund portfolio. But the point is, you can enter all of your individual stocks, your ETFs, your mutual funds, and how much you own of each. And yes, it's a manual process. So unlike Personal Capital that will link to your accounts and bring all that information automatically, this takes some work. But once you get it in there, it provides some pretty interesting information. You get what's called a snapshot, and you can see the information it gives you here, including the day's change, market value, the weight of your portfolio. But then you can go into what's called My View right here, and you can customize this. So I have things like the expense ratio here, the dividend yield trailing 12 months, price to earnings on a forward basis, the return on equity for the last 12 months. You can pick what you want, and you do that through Customize My View right here. If we click on that, you can see there's just a ton of data that you can pull in from Morningstar. You would just select one. So for example, if you wanted to know, we'll do operating income for 3 years, you would just add it. It brings it up over here. If we save it, it should show up. Let's see. It should be at the end. Yeah, here it is. These are funds, so they don't have that data for the fund. They would if they were individual stocks. And so you can really customize this in many, many ways. And then of course you can look at your performance over time. And the thing I like about it is this almost looks like sort of what you would see from a mutual fund or an ETF, sort of a professional grade level analysis of your performance. It shows you the performance by month and then over time, in this case over the 12 months. And then if I created these portfolios about a year ago, so if you use Morningstar for longer periods of time, of course, you'll see the 3-year here and the 5-year and so on will get filled in. So overall, I like Morningstar. I don't use it as much, frankly, because it takes a lot more work. You got to enter it by hand. If there are changes, you reinvest dividends, you contribute to a 401k, you've got to go in. You don't have to do it every month. You might do it quarterly, but you're going to have to go in and update it. And so it does take a little more work. As I said, there's both a free and paid version. I think the free version is excellent probably for most people. But if you're willing to put in the work, you can get some really good, I think, data out of Morningstar. All right. The third and final one I'm going to show you today is actually, I think, ideal. It's ideal for any portfolio, but specifically for those of you that include in your portfolio individual stocks. So just like Morningstar, you can enter your portfolios manually. However, just like Personal Capital, you can also connect your accounts if you want to. And you'll notice over here, I've organized my portfolios into 3 folders. The YouTube portfolio, which is just the portfolios I show on these videos for YouTube. My personal portfolio, which I don't show on air, and then sample portfolios. And so if we look at the YouTube portfolio, this is actually a real live portfolio of mine, or account at M1 Finance. It's where we invest our credit card rewards, and I've shown this before. But this gives you just a sense of the kind of data that it can show you. I have 2 stocks in that portfolio, and it gives you, Bank of America and Wells Fargo, gives you, information on cost basis, the price, the value, of course, the gains. These have done very well. And as you might imagine, we can analyze this in almost unlimited ways. And so I could look, for example, at the internal rate of return. We can look at charts. The charts go on forever. In fact, let me show you another one briefly. and it takes just a second to load. While it's doing that, I may have to refresh it, but I want to show you this. When I hover over the tickers, it gives you a snapshot, in this case of Bank of America, shows you price earnings, earnings per share, the PE over growth, forward, dividends per share, and it looks like I may need to refresh this, which sometimes happens. Let me see if I can get this to work. Oh, here we go. Good. So it refreshed. I really like the football field. That's what they call it, right? Because it shows you not just the current, say in this case, I'm looking right here, the current PE, but kind of the range over the last year. So we're sort of at a low end of the PE range, but price to book, which happens to be very important for banks, we're at the high end of the price to book. So it gives you that information. You can see in this chart at the top, we're comparing it to the S&P 500. So Bank of America has outperformed the S&P over the last 12 months. But it also shows you like the dividends when they're paid. You can look, of course, at fundamentals. You can look at technical analysis, which is not how I invest, but if you do, you've got the information in here. It'll also show you the future calendar of dividends. So you can look at your portfolio and see what the future dividends should be over time. One last thing I'll show you, and we could spend hours upon hours with Stock Rover. I mean, it really just, it's like drinking from a fire hose, the amount of data it gives you. But one thing I want to show you that I find useful is down here in the bookmarks section, bottom left. If we go to, or actually under resources, library, if we click library, they have sort of pre-built everything, a ton of screeners, if you want to screen for stocks, which is what this is, watch lists, views, and so on. The one I wanted to point out is portfolios. So these are pre-programmed portfolios that you can look at and evaluate and even compare your portfolio to if you want to. So they have a David Einhorn portfolio. He's from Greenlight Capital. Seth Klarman, right? Warren Buffett's top 25. Bill Ackman from Pershing Square. I mean, the list really goes on and on. Carl Icahn. And they have Rick Ferry's portfolio is in here. They have 3-fund portfolio. So there's a number of lazy portfolios. This one's grayed out, the Rick Ferry 3-fund portfolio, because I already use it and look at it and to evaluate things. We've talked on the channel, in fact, just recently published a video on the Rick Ferry Core 4 portfolio. They have that one. So you can add those to a portfolio and use them to evaluate those portfolios and compare your own to their performance. So Stock Rover is an excellent tool. It's not for the faint of heart. There is definitely a learning curve, and frankly, I'm still learning a lot about the tool. But the learning curve is there because it offers so much data. I think for your sort of lazy portfolio, buy and hold investor, it may be more data than you want or need, and personal capital, for example, may be a better option. But certainly if you're into more complicated portfolios with a number of ETFs and certainly with a number of individual stocks, which is often how I use it, I think Stock Rover can be a really good option. It is a paid tool. I find the cost to be fairly reasonable. I'll leave links below the video so you can check that out if it's of interest to you. So those are 3 of my favorite portfolio trackers. As I mentioned, there are others. Again, I'll link to an article that I wrote that tracks and looks at 8 of them. But those are my favorites. I hope you found this helpful. If you have other portfolio trackers that you really like, let us know about it in the comments below. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I'll do my best to help you out any way I can. And until next time, remember, the best thing money can buy is financial freedom.